Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack sources and find those surprising facts and real nuggets of insight. Today, we're going on a bit of a journey ourselves into a book that has touched, well, millions around the world.
That's right. We're looking at Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. It's a story that gets mentioned in the same breath as classics like The Little Prince or The Prophet. Quite the reputation.
Absolutely. And our mission, really, for this deep dive is to get under the skin of why this book became such a global phenomenon. We want to explore that core wisdom, about following your heart, finding your destiny, and maybe pull out some surprising angles you haven't considered.
Yeah, you might even see bits of your own journey reflected in Santiago's story.
Exactly.
We've got some fascinating sources lined up. We'll look at its international success story, Coelho's own foreword, which is very revealing, the prologue, and of course key parts of Santiago's journey itself. We'll take our time with it, make sure we really grasp the layers here.
Okay, great. So let's start with the journey of the book itself, because it wasn't an instant hit, was it? That often surprises people.
Not at all. Coelho talks about it in the foreword, published 25 years ago in Brazil, and he says, no one noticed, literally. A bookseller sold one copy in the first week.
One copy.
Yeah, and then 6 months later, sold another one to the same person. It gets worse. His original publisher actually canceled the contract, just cut him loose.
Wow. So given that kind of, rejection, how did he keep the faith? What kept him going with that vision?
It's fascinating, isn't it? He said he never lost faith or ever wavered because, and this is a direct quote, "It was me in there, all of me, heart and soul. I was living my own metaphor." He really believed his treasure, his gift, was writing itself.
So the book itself was part of his own personal legend, you could say.
Exactly. That conviction is key. He writes, when you want something, the whole universe conspires to help you. And that belief pushed him to find another publisher. And then slowly, just through word of mouth, it started selling.
Just people telling people.
Yeah. 3,000 copies, then 6, 10,000.
Yeah.
Just building organically book by book. It kind of proved his philosophy right in his own life,
And then things really changed gear with the celebrity endorsements, right? That must have been unexpected.
Oh, completely. Bill Clinton's photographed holding it. Madonna tells Vanity Fair how much she loves it. Suddenly you've got everyone from Rush Limbaugh and Will Smith to college kids and soccer moms talking about this book.
Quite the mix.
Yeah, it became what Coelho calls a spontaneous and organic phenomenon. Just took off. It ended up on the New York Times bestseller list for over 300 weeks.
300 weeks, that's incredible.
It is. And translated into, I think, more than 80 languages now. It's the most translated book by any living author. Some even listed as one of the 10 best books of the 20th century.
So for you listening, what's the takeaway from that journey? A book starting like that, becoming so universal.
Well, Coelho's take is that it resonates because, fundamentally, the story of one person is the story of everyone. One person's quest reflects humanity's quest. He thinks understanding stories like this can build bridges, even when things seem divided globally. It taps into something really basic in all of us.
Okay, so to get into that universal story, we actually start not with Santiago, the main character, but with this really interesting prologue, a twist on the Narcissus myth.
That's right. The usual story is Narcissus falls for his own reflection, drowns, tragedy of vanity, but Coelho's version, The Alchemist, reads an ending where the lake weeps for Narcissus.
Weeps for him.
Yeah, but not because Narcissus was beautiful. The lake says, each time he knelt beside my banks, I could see in the depths of his eyes my own beauty reflected.
Huh, that completely flips it, doesn't it? What do you think he's signaling there right at the start?
It's quite clever, I think. It shifts the focus from simple self-absorption to, a kind of mutual reflection. Maybe suggesting that self-discovery isn't just internal gazing, but it's also about how we see ourselves reflected in the world and how the world sees itself in us. It sets a tone, looking deeper, finding unexpected angles.
Interesting. Okay, so after that prologue, then we meet Santiago, young shepherd boy, sleeping in this ruined church, using a book for a pillow, and he keeps having this dream.
Yeah, twice now. A child, his sheep, and this hidden treasure by the Egyptian pyramids. But he always wakes up before he finds out exactly where it is.
And he seems like a simple soul, right? Likes his freedom, talks to his sheep.
Definitely. He's connected to nature, content in many ways. But he also has this desire, this pull towards something more, hinted at by the dream.
And there's that detail about his parents wanting him to be a priest, but he chose shepherding so he could travel. His father gives him the money.
Right. But Santiago sees something in his father's eyes, a desire to be able himself to travel the world, a desire that was still alive, despite his father's having had to bury it.
Ah, so that theme of unfulfilled dreams comes in early. It's not just Santiago's dream, perhaps.
Exactly. It adds this layer of generational longing, maybe even a burden
Yeah.
that Santiago's carrying, perhaps without fully realizing it yet.
So the dream keeps nagging him, and he goes to see a gypsy woman in Tarifa, a dream interpreter. He's a bit scared of her based on childhood stories.
And she basically tells him what he already knows from the dream. Go to the pyramids, find treasure. Simple as that. But she wants a cut. 1/10 of the treasure if you find it.
Yeah. And Santiago's just disappointed, right? Feels like he wasted his time.
Yeah, it seems too obvious, too simple.
It's funny how we do that sometimes, isn't it? Dismiss the simple answers. Why do you think we resist that?
It's a good question. Maybe we feel like valuable things have to be complicated, or that easy answers aren't, profound enough. Santiago definitely feels let down by the lack of complexity here.
So he's about ready to just forget the whole thing. But then, sitting in the plaza, this old man starts talking to him. Melchizedek says he's the king of Salem.
Right. And he points to the book Santiago's reading and says something quite pointed. It's a book that says the same thing almost all the other books say.
Mm-hmm.
It describes people's inability to choose their own personal legends.
Personal legends. That's the first time we hear that term, isn't it?
It is. And then the king drops this bombshell, the world's greatest lie, which is...
Yeah, at a certain point, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate.
Exactly. A direct challenge to just letting life happen to you. He defines your personal legend as what you have always wanted to accomplish, your true calling, essentially.
And he brings back that theme we heard from Coelho's own story. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. He even shows Santiago these stones, Urim and Thummim, for yes-no answers.
But tells him to try and make his own decisions first. It's guidance, not a crutch. It's really about tapping into, well, maybe the power of intention. When you're truly aligned with your deepest desire, you start seeing the opportunities, the conspiracies of the universe that help you along.
The king also tells this parable, the one about the boy, the spoon, and the drops of oil.
Ah, yes. The wise man gives a boy a spoon with 2 drops of oil, tells him to explore a palace, but don't spill the oil.
First time, he's so focused on the oil, he sees nothing of the palace.
Right. Second time, he sees all the wonders, takes it all in, but spills the oil.
And the lesson.
The secret of happiness is to see all the marvels of the world and never to forget the drops of oil on the spoon.
It's such a perfect metaphor. So for you listening, the question becomes, how do you keep sight of your goal, your oil, without missing the beauty, the experiences, the palace wonders all around you on the journey?
It's a constant balancing act, isn't it? A call for mindfulness even when you're driven. Then the king asks for 1/10 of Santiago's sheep as payment.
Why is she?
He calls it the principle of favorability. Beginner's luck, essentially. That first taste of success when you start something new, designed to whet your appetite. It's an investment in the dream. And Santiago, well, he makes the leap, sells his sheep, commits to the journey.
So off he goes to Tangier, Africa. New continent, new culture, and almost immediately, bam, he gets robbed.
Yeah, by someone he thought was a friend, loses everything except his jacket and those 2 stones, Urim and Thummim. It's a brutal start.
This is a real test, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you possibly bounce back from that?
It's a critical moment. He could just give up, be a victim. But he remembers the old king's words about being an adventurer, about his personal legend. And he actively chooses, to see himself not as a victim, but as an adventurer looking for treasure. That shift in perspective is huge.
So, broken alone, he finds work with a crystal merchant, and this merchant is sort of the opposite of Santiago.
Completely. Been there 30 years, stuck, afraid of change. He dreams of going to Mecca, but he's actually afraid to achieve the dream because
Right.
what would he live for then?
That's a powerful fear, the fear of what comes after you get what you want.
Exactly. But Santiago, even in his difficult situation, brings this fresh energy. He suggests cleaning the dusty crystal, building a display case outside. Simple things.
And the most successful idea, selling tea in the crystal glasses.
Right. Business starts booming, and Santiago has this realization watching a candy seller nearby who works with such joy.
The language that doesn't depend on words.
Yeah, the language of enthusiasm, of things accomplished with love and purpose. He's learning to read the world, read people in a deeper way than just language. It's about energy and tension.
So he works there for, what, almost a year? Saves up enough money to go back to Spain, buy twice as many sheep. He could just go home.
He could. He has the means to return to his old life, maybe even better off. But Egypt, The pyramids, that original dream. It's still there, thousands of kilometers away, across a vast desert. He's at another crossroads. Comfort or quest?
And he chooses the quest. He joins this huge caravan heading across the Sahara, and there he meets an Englishman.
Right, an Englishman who's completely absorbed in books about alchemy. He's searching for the one true language of the universe and hoping to find a famous alchemist rumored to live at the Al-Fayoum oasis.
So, two seekers on different paths, but heading the same way.
Exactly. And the desert itself becomes a teacher. Santiago learns from the camel driver, a really wise character.
What does the camel driver teach him?
Things like, people need not fear the unknown if they are capable of achieving what they need and want. And that fear disappears when we realize our life stories and the history of the world were written by the same hand. A sense of interconnectedness, of trust in a larger plan.
He also talks about the present moment, doesn't he?
Crucially, if you can concentrate always on the present, you'll be a happy man, because life is the moment we're living right now. Powerful advice for a long, uncertain journey.
Meanwhile, the Englishman is explaining alchemy, the soul of the world, the masterwork, the elixir of life, the philosopher's stone.
He sees the purification of metals as a metaphor for purifying the self. He mentions the Emerald Tablet, this core alchemical text, holding simple truths that humans have made complicated over time. He's focused on the theory, the books.
But Santiago starts connecting these ideas to his own experiences. He starts to feel that all things are the manifestation of one thing only, that everything has a soul.
Yeah, even the crystal glasses back in the shop, he realizes we're collaborating in your success because he treated them with care and enthusiasm. It's this growing understanding of a living, responsive universe.
And this key idea comes up again. When you want something with all your heart, that's when you're closest to the soul of the world.
It's about alignment, aligning your personal desire with this universal energy.
So the caravan finally reaches the Al-Fayoum oasis. It's a safe haven, neutral territory in the middle of these tribal wars. And here, Santiago finds something unexpected.
He finds Fatima, meets her at the well, and it's instant, profound connection. Love at first sight, really. He feels time stop, feels the soul of the world surge within him.
He sees this as the true language of the world, this connection.
Exactly. Love as the ultimate omen, the sign he'd been waiting for without knowing it. He feels like everything under the sun has been written by one hand only. Destiny.
And Fatima is not just some passive love interest. She's wise, a woman of the desert.
Very wise. She understands his quest, tells him, if I am really a part of your dream, you'll come back one day. She doesn't hold him back. In fact, she pushes him forward, saying, love never keeps a man from pursuing his personal legend.
Wow, that's a powerful statement about love and purpose.
It really is. Then Santiago has this sudden, intense vision, two hawks fighting violently in the sky. He reads it as an omen.
An attack on the oasis.
Yes, he feels compelled to warn the tribal chieftains. It's a huge risk they could dismiss him, even punish him. But he does it.
And they listen.
Initially skeptical, yes. But they recall the story of Joseph in Egypt interpreting Pharaoh's dreams, and they decide to heed his warning, preparing the oasis for defense.
His courage pays off. The oasis is saved. And it's right after this that he finally meets the alchemist.
Just as the Englishman had hoped. But it's Santiago the alchemist seeks out. The alchemist recognizes Santiago's connection to the soul of the world, tells him he essentially already knows what he needs to know. He's just there to point you in the direction of your treasure.
But first, another choice. The alchemist lays it out. Stay here at the oasis. You'll have Fatima, you'll be rich, respected, a counselor, a good life. Or continue the dangerous journey to the pyramids.
And he gives a stark warning. If you stay, eventually, years down the line, the omens will stop speaking to you. You'll regret not finishing your personal legend, and that regret will poison everything, even your love for Fatima. She'll feel responsible.
It's that fear of fulfillment again, or maybe the consequence of not fulfilling it.
Precisely. It's a tough, tough choice. Love and comfort versus the unknown, dangerous path of destiny.
Santiago chooses the path. He chooses to go on with the alchemist. He says goodbye to Fatima.
A really touching scene. She promises to wait, sends her kisses on the wind. Hopeful, but sad too.
So as they travel now, just the two of them, what does the alchemist teach him?
The core lesson is simple but profound. There is only one way to learn. It's through action. Reading books, like the Englishman did, isn't enough. You have to live it.
And he clarifies true alchemy, doesn't he? It's not just about turning lead into gold.
Not primarily. He says those who only sought gold failed because they weren't living their personal legend. True alchemy is about personal transformation. When we strive to become better than we are, he says, everything around us becomes better too. Self-evolution impacts the world.
And then comes the ultimate test. They get captured by these tribesmen out in the desert.
Yeah, a really tense moment. And the alchemist does something terrifying. He tells the chieftain that Santiago is an incredibly powerful alchemist who can turn himself into the wind and will prove it in 3 days. If not, they both die.
He basically throws Santiago into the fire.
Completely. Santiago is terrified, obviously. He has no idea how to do this.
What?
So he spends 3 days in deep communion trying to understand. He speaks to the desert, then the wind, then the sun.
Speak to them.
Not with words, the book explains. With the heart. Using that universal language, he's been discovering the language of the soul of the world. Each element teaches him something about interconnectedness, about love, about the source of creation.
Until finally he speaks to.
The hand that wrote all, the ultimate source. And in that connection, he realizes his own soul is part of the soul of God, and that through this connection, he could perform miracles. It's the peak of his spiritual understanding.
And he does it. He turns into the wind.
In a way, yes. The narrative describes this incredible moment where the wind whips up, the desert sands swirl, and Santiago seems to disappear and reappear on the other side of the camp. The tribesmen are terrified, awestruck. They let him go.
Incredible. A real demonstration of that connection.
Definitely. Afterwards, they stop at a monastery, and the alchemist does perform literal alchemy, turns lead into gold. He gives Santiago a piece.
But with another warning, right? Something about things happening twice.
Yeah. Everything that happens once can never happen again. But everything that happens twice will surely happen a third time. He's warning Santiago about losing his money. It happened in Tarifa. It happened when he was beaten by the refugees later. He needs to be careful.
The alchemist also shares one last story before they part ways. The Roman centurion one.
Ah, yes. The centurion whose simple words of faith, "Lord, I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof," echoed through centuries, while his brother, a famous poet, was forgotten.
What's the point of that story?
The alchemist says, no matter what he does, every person on earth plays a central role in the history of the world. And normally he doesn't know it. It's about the unseen impact of sincere action and belief.
So Santiago finally reaches the pyramids, alone now. He falls to his knees, just overwhelmed with emotion. He made it.
Tears of joy. He sees a scarab beetle, takes it as an omen for where to dig. He starts digging full of hope.
And finds nothing, but then gets attacked.
Yeah, some refugees from the tribal wars find him, beat him up, steal the gold the alchemist gave him. They demand to know what he's digging for. In desperation, Santiago tells him about his recurring dream of treasure buried there.
And the leader of the attackers?
The leader laughs. He mocks Santiago. And then he reveals something stunning. He used to have a recurring dream too, about a treasure hidden back in Spain, buried in a ruined church, under a sycamore tree where a shepherd and his sheep often slept.
No. The exact place Santiago started from.
Exactly. The leader says he wasn't stupid enough to cross a desert because of a dream. And in that moment, Santiago understands. The treasure wasn't at the pyramids. It was back home all along.
What a twist. All that way, all that suffering, to find out the treasure was where he began. But he seems joyful about it.
Bursting with joy, because he realizes the journey itself was the point. He had to go to Egypt, meet the king, the merchant, the Englishman, Fatima, the alchemist. He had to learn all those lessons, transform himself to understand where the treasure truly was, and, maybe more importantly, to be worthy of it.
So he goes back to the ruined church in Spain, digs under that sycamore tree.
And finds it. A chest brimming with old Spanish gold coins, precious stones, gold masks. A real, tangible treasure.
And he remembers the gypsy woman's demand for 1/10.
Yeah, he smiles and thinks, those gypsies are really smart. He understands the price was fair, and then the wind blows the Levanter wind from Africa.
Bringing...
The scent of a perfume he knew well, and the touch of a kiss.
Yeah.
He knows it's Fatima reaching him across the distance. A connection confirmed.
So this whole deep dive really shows that the personal legend is... Well, it's not just about the goal, is it? It's about who you become getting there.
Absolutely. The inner journey unlocks the outer treasure. You have to go through the transformation first.
It reminds me of that other Coelho excerpt we looked at from Warrior of the Light, the boy searching for the bells from the temple under the sea.
Right. He searches so hard, stares so intently at the spot where he thinks the temple is, that he misses everything else, the seagulls, the waves, the fishermen.
But when he gives up that intense, focused searching and just listens to the sounds around him,
then he hears them. First one bell, then another, then all the bells of the drowned temple ringing.
And the warrior of the light is defined as someone who can understand life's miracles, fight for beliefs, and hear those subtle bells ringing beneath the surface.
Exactly. It's about finding wisdom not just through striving, but also through awareness, through listening to the world around you and within you. Coelho himself embodies this pursuing his writing dream, despite the setbacks.
So, wrapping up this deep dive into The Alchemist, we've seen so much. The importance of listening to your heart, definitely. Reading the omens, finding courage when you're afraid or when you fail, and that core belief that the universe really does conspire to help you when you're pursuing your true desire.
And the treasure, well, it might be closer than you think, maybe even back where you started, but you wouldn't recognize it or perhaps wouldn't deserve it without the journey, without the transformation. That's the real gold.
So, thinking about your own life now. What does this spark for you? Are there any bells you might be missing because you're looking too hard in one specific direction? What's your personal legend whispering to you? And maybe what's one small step you could take, trusting that the universe is ready to conspire with you?
Live fully, learn constantly, and always remember that balance. The secret of happiness is to see all the marvels of the world and never to forget the drops of oil on the spoon. Until next time, keep diving deep.